Thank you and welcome to Abuja. I thank you, Charles, and our colleagues in Enugu. You just played back the president's speech last night. He's declared a state of emergency in Rivers State. The governor and his deputy out of the way, the legislators out, ex-military man now to administer Rivers State. I do not think I want to dwell on that this morning, but I will just broach it a little bit, maybe 1 minute or so. But before I do that, let me tell you the issue we're treating this morning on Signature Morning from Abuja. The title of this morning's program was supposed to be Tinubu has got it right, but that will be conclusive, that will be an opinion. What we're looking at this morning is funding agriculture and getting the priorities right. I'm sure that you know that the president has given the Bank of Agriculture 1.5 trillion naira, 1.5 trillion, the equivalent of $1 billion, to kickstart, to enliven agricultural production and processing. And the president also is earmarked 500 billion for Bank of Industries to help fund agricultural processing, and is proposing a number of incentives to the banking sector to enable them to take the risk of lending to the agriculture sector. You'll be looking at it. Is the president right? And how can it be done better? And I have in the studio this morning a member of Nigeria's House of Representatives and a person involved in agricultural practice, Honorable Agbo. Honorable, you're welcome to the conversation this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where have you been, really? It's a long time.
Thank you for having me.
Always looking smooth and beautiful.
Yeah, because God is good.
Now, the president has declared a state of emergency. That's not why I brought you here. But I cannot climb the Iroko tree and just pick one piece of wood and come down. Is there anything you see that is not clear to you in this state of emergency declaration of last night?
Okay. A president is the head of state, and the Constitution empowers him to take action when he feels there's a need for that. Because the responsibility of governing Nigeria, presiding over the affairs of Nigeria, is his responsibility, and the buck stops on his table. And so, by yesterday, he acted and took an action on the situation that has been building up in Rivers State. Now, just like you said, this is not why I'm here.
No.
But Nigeria, not even Rivers State people, but particularly Rivers State people, have been very concerned about the situation in Rivers. The degeneration of the situation, the breakdown of governance, which may also continue to degenerate if action is not taken. Now, the Constitution empowers the president to step in where he believes that further breakdown of law and order can ensue, can become the situation. Now, question is, was this, had the situation ripened to that point? It is a matter of, but we have a president who we have elected or have put in office, who has found himself in the situation to take that decision, and that means that it is his own head that the Constitution contemplates to decide what direction the situation was going. Whether the situation in Rivers State has become worse than other situations in other parts of Nigeria is his own head that will decide that I'm not a president. I wish I'm not. Well, I'm not a president.
I was a little worried because the Supreme Court had made a pronouncement, and the governors seemed to be meticulously implementing the.
That is why all hands are fingers are crossed, and people are waiting. What next? I dare say that I wonder whether this was the contemplation of even the major gladiators. They might not have seen this coming. They might have been thinking another direction, but this has come.
It has come.
And this has come, and whether this meets their expectations. This is not why I'm here,
no.
But I am thinking that some people may be very disappointed. Even the key gladiators in the matter may be disappointed right now, and they may be in a state of confusion, a state of disappointment. So because this may not have been their calculation, but I think that very quickly the situation is going to unfold, and people are going to see the situation in Rivers State unravel and get solved. For me, I'm praying for Rivers State, and I believe that whatever is going on now will bring about a lasting solution.
Lasting situation. Yes. But yeah, I remember the legislature.
Yes.
I am not in your part of the governance structure. Is the president not supposed to have consulted with the legislature before?
Yeah, the contemplation of the constitution is that he can act, but he needs to quickly bring that to the National Assembly for their approval. That will happen immediately. I will not be surprised if this morning the letter gets to us.
Okay, let me leave that. This morning we are looking at funding Nigeria's agriculture and getting the priorities right. This topic, we are going to deal with it for almost 3 days running. And the reason is because so many stakeholders are involved. The practitioners, the financial sector, the associations, the state governments. Now the president has earmarked 1.5 trillion. That's a huge sum of money to the bank, to the agriculture bank.
No, Bank of Agriculture is to get 1 trillion.
1 trillion.
Bank of Industries
to get 500 billion.
Yes.
Good. Now it's also putting together items to encourage the banks to lend to the agriculture sector.
In addition to that,
yes,
the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security is getting 2.06 trillion. And also the Ministry of Livestock Production is also getting a lot of money for their capital project. I'm talking of just capital projects.
Yes.
Capital projects. So I will boldly and clearly say that never in recent history have we seen this amount of funding. Funding, I say, for the agricultural sector. We have not seen it at this level in recent times in our national history. Even in all of our recent history, we have not seen this amount of quantum of funding for the agricultural sector. I was looking at the budget recently, the just passed budget, the budget that has been assented to law, and I was taking them item by item, especially their capital projects. And I imagine that if this amount of activities are unleashed on our agricultural sector, then we might just be getting it right. Now, I am also in the legislature, and I'm in the Agric Institutions and Colleges Committee of so our eyes are going to be beamed on those items, the significant figures that are supposed to be invested in particular activities in the agricultural sector to achieve the specific outcomes. It is our responsibility to make sure that happens, because if that happens, Nigeria might just be getting ourselves out of these woods of hunger and high prices of agricultural produce, high cost of food items that has gone beyond the reach of the average Nigerian. But one thing needs to be said, and I know also that even that got a lot of attention in the budget that we just passed.
Okay.
And that is the security of our farmers in the farm. That was the trigger that brought about the high cost of food items, the scarcity of food items, and the high the food insecurity that we find ourselves in. It is the insecurity of farmers, the insecurity of our farms, farmers not feeling safe to go and cultivate, farmers actually being attacked in their farms, farmers being driven away from their farms, farmlands becoming wasteland, farmland, and I'm talking about expansive farmlands that can feed the whole of Africa, whole of a substantial part of the world, because we have the best weather for agricultural production. But these things, because bandits came, clashes between the farmers and the herders, and the farmers were driven out of the farms. They didn't feel safe again. But like I said, in this particular budget again, attention is being given to that, apart from the direct funding of the agricultural sector, the ministries, their agencies, the institutions, the livestock ministry, the Bank of Agriculture, and the Bank of Industry. Apart from that, there is an instruction, an arrangement. I'm also in the Committee on Interior, and there's an arrangement to recruit about 10,000, if not 100,000. I hope I'm right, but at least 10,000, what they call forest rangers or farm rangers, maybe from the Nigerian Civil Defense and Security and Civil Defense Corps. So if you unleash 10,000 farm rangers to go and protect our farmers in the farms, my state, Enugu State, by federal character, is supposed to get at least 300. Yes, supposed to get at least 300 and something of this. I think it's 100,000 farm rangers, because I calculated it. My state was supposed to get about 3,000 farm rangers. Now, if these people come to my state, my governor is implementing what he calls the farm estate program, farm estates, whereby all the wards in my state supposed to put under cultivation is certain. That's about 200 hectares of land per ward. Now, if that is going to happen, multiply that by all the 360 wards you have in Enugu State, and then that these people are being protected and food is being produced and unleashed on society, it will create a substantial impact in what is going on in Nigeria. Now, you notice that our food basket, or the major
food production states,
food production centers in Enugu State, Ehamufu, Ozowan, they have been under heavy attacks from bandits. Now, if these 3,000 rangers are pushed to these places to go and secure these farmers, not like a flashpoint, but staying with them, because when this scarcity of food triggered in Nigeria, I was saying that if I were to be the president, I don't mind cordoning off all the farms in Nigeria, securing all the farmers, making sure that people hold guns over the farmers and letting them, carry on their agricultural production. If that should happen, if we have 3,000 farm rangers in Enugu State, they will secure the farmers in their farms. Ihamufu will be secure. Uduma and Inri will be secure. Uzowani will be secure. Ibueze North will be secure. These are food centers. So you have the rice belt, for instance, going from Uduma, Kerefi, Aninri, Uboka, joining Ebonyi. That's the rice belt. You have the cassava belt running from Udenu, Ibueze North to Ibueze South, then Nsukka. You have another rice belt again in Uzowani. And then you have all the multiple vegetable cultivation for tomato, cabbage, cucumber, whatever, name it, in Eziago, in all those, name them. There are, so Enugu State will get ready to feed almost there. But as we are doing our own in Enugu State, Ebonyi will be doing, Anambra will be doing, because everybody will feel safe. So you are right to say that the president has gotten it right. You are very right. It has never happened in this fashion before. I hope it will be sustained. We have our work to do as legislators to make sure that the intendments, the intentions of government is achieved. But if we allow government to achieve what I think we might just be in the right direction. There are states also that have shown particular examples. My state, for instance, with their what they call them, the farm estate project. Niger State is being an example.
As a matter of
Lagos
State Commissioner of Agriculture is coming here because of this topic.
Lagos State is doing marvelously well. That's a particular. I was discussing with a local government chairman of an urban local government in Enugu 2 days ago, and he was saying that because he is in an urban local government, fully developed local government, that the charge of the governor and the mandate for his local government is to create green farms. Now, you know that by what we can now learn from Israel.
Yes.
Farms can be conducted anywhere. In bags, in cement bags, in jute bags, in upstairs, downstairs, backyard. You can be growing large quantities of food, producing your melons, your cucumbers, your tomatoes, your cabbage, your tomato, all those things. You can be producing them. So in green farm, not to talk of proper green farms, but these are even private individuals can just arrange the balcony of their farm, of their house, and production is going on.
Agbo, let me, you know that we're talking about this money. Yesterday, I was at ANCOM, so I want them to be my guests next week. And what triggered my visit was the tendency for our people to take government facilitated loans, and those loans become bad debt. And one thing AMCOM has said to me is that their greatest worry is that when these loans are secured, the monies are not deployed for the purposes for which the loans were gotten. Now, 1.1 trillion to this bank, 500 billion to the other bank, is to be given out as facilities for these activities. Now, how do we shepherd it? How do we handle it?
Let me tell you, I think is this Shakespeare or somebody that said the problem, Brutus or whatever, is not in our stars but in ourselves.
That we are underlings.
Good. So, I finished as a banker. I left the banking industry as a general manager almost 22 years ago. I understand banking, I understand lending, I understand credit. And in fact, in banking, I headed the consumer banking division for UBA for the entire Southeast. So lending to that sector is what I understand very well. there is a way to lend to that sector and the money will come back. In fact, that sector, which is the lower level of banking, you have the consumer banking, you have the commercial banking, you have the corporate banking. That lower level, which is the consumer banking that conducts these agricultural activities like we are talking about it, they are the safest people to lend to, but there's a way to lend to them. You lend to them through microcredits, you lend to them through their associations, you lend to them through their cooperatives. Now, we know what to do. And if you try to access a loan, that is why I wonder why loans are not being collected. I don't think anybody has ever called me back to UBA to ask me about on-service or failed lending, because that's a way to lend to these people. And when you lend, you collect back your money. That's a way to lend to the agricultural sector. And when Bank of Industry wants to lend to you, for instance, they ask you to obtain guarantee of a commercial bank. They have the money, but a commercial bank will have to guarantee you, especially if you are a politically exposed person, PEP. You have to get guarantees. Now, there is a Bank of Industry, which an agricultural bank again, which is the NISA. Okay?
The insurance.
Yes, NISA. Now, NISA will appraise you because their own is to ensure the lendings to the agricultural sector. They will appraise you, and what is the basis of the appraisal? Is to make sure that guarantees are established to secure the repayment of the loan. So, I mean, there are banks and there are bankers, and they know what to do. If they don't know what to do, then there's a problem. Because we cannot do without solving the funding problem of this sector. Other climes, other jurisdictions, this sector or these segments of the economy, they are the engine of growth. We depend on them to feed the country. We depend on them to stimulate the economy. We depend on them for spending. They are the ones that spend a large portion of the money that comes to them. So they stimulate the economy. With them, producers find market. With them, producers, manufacturers have complementarities because they engineer the supplies, the outsourcing for the major manufacturers. They are the ones in the farm. We must have to attend to them. We are talking about how many trillion put together? Trillion naira put together. In other climes, countries as big as Nigeria should be lending trillions of dollars to this agricultural sector. That is the truth.
Let me draw attention to something, and that is the organization of our agriculture sector.
Yeah.
I close my eyes, I look at some farms in the United States, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, with machines rumbling and either planting or harvesting. And these are called industrial agriculture, big time farmers. Our conversation in this country seems to revolve around the smallholder, the small farmer, our community farmers. And those in the economy say that they cannot sustain the level of agriculture output to make Nigeria the big player. Big player. Do you think there's need to reappraise our organization of the agriculture sector? And from that, I'm going to come to land management and land access. But first, do we need to reorganize it?
Okay. We need commercial agriculture to unleash substantial output into the system. Commercial agriculture, not subsistent agriculture. Agriculture must get beyond subsistence. Now, for you to get into commercial agriculture, access to land is an issue. Land clearing is an issue. Land preparation is an issue. Okay, but these are issues that can be solved. I'm talking about what to give your attention to, not that they are issues that that cannot be resolved. We have the land, vast arable cultivable land in Nigeria, running into endless kilometers. The farmland that you find in Niger State is already enough to feed the entire continent of Africa. The weather, the good weather is there, and so on and so forth. So now we talk of the good examples. The governor of my state directed each local government chairman to raise 20 hectares of land. Enugu State is not one of those states you talk about when you talk about agricultural land. They say 20 hectares of land per ward. In my local government, for instance, we have 20 wards. That will raise like 400 hectares of land to be put under cultivation. Now, if you 200 hectares per ward, that's 2,000 hectares in the local government. If you put this amount of land, and we have 17 local governments, multiply 2,000 by 17 on the average, you're talking about 34,000 hectares of land. Now, how much food do you want to produce that you cannot produce with that? And no local government, except these urban ones that I've told you now, that they are now doing hydroponics or these green farms. But most of the other local governments have already generated and submitted their acquisition of these 200 hectares per ward. That has already happened. Not to talk of a
state like Niger,
yes,
a state like Kano,
and each time once you have up to 200 hectares of land, you can do commercial agriculture, because when you clear the land, prepare the land, you can now bring in the tractors. A land for commercial agriculture is the land where you can mechanize the production. Now, I remember that recently I was discussing with the governor. I said, okay, now we have a farm estate, an abandoned farm settlement in my local government, which is called Agbo.
And on the eastern Nigerian
government. Yes, Agbo farm settlement. It was established under Jim Obodo administration. Okay. And then I told him, look, there in that Agbo farm settlement, you have endless hectares of land running to several square kilometers of farm settlement. That particular agriculture can even serve the entire requirement or the allocation or requirement for Igboeze North, and this is a contiguous farm settlement and extends up to Ete, and then large expanse of land. So what is required now? They've overgrown into thick forest now, dense forest, but then money can be found from this trillions that we are talking about to go and clear that entire place, stomp them, prepare the entire place, and make it a cultivable farmland. Now, one tractor can now move from one end to the other end, from one end to the other end, cultivating the land for food production. Now, interestingly again, we talk of youth unemployment, and this agricultural sector has a high absorptive capacity of these unemployed youths. Now you come to this agriculture farm. I'm using it just as an example.
Yes, please.
You parcellate the into 10 hectares for a monocrop. For instance, you choose cassava, and each youth is tending 10 hectares of land, and you are giving the youth. You just allocate a 10 hectare space to the youth, to the graduate young man. You say, this is your space. But in this your space, we are going to bring you a high-yielding cassava stem. We are going to provide you with the cultivators, that is the tractor, to come and ridge your portion. So the portion is ridged. You give them high-yielding, mineral fortified stems, cassava stems, to go and cultivate. You give them fertilizer if there is any need. Then you, after they have cultivated, they tend it, they weed it, they apply the fertilizer, they do everything. The thing grows, the rain comes, the sun comes. You understand? And then the thing matures, and food is underground, and then they harvest it. Now the government comes back and says again, we guarantee you
the market,
the offtake. Let me tell you, in agricultural production in Nigeria, there are certain
necessary steps.
There are certain bottlenecks.
Okay.
That government comes to
clear.
Yes, to take off the farmer. One is access to capital, access to money,
which is what the president has.
In this particular example I'm giving, if you are talking about access to money, then the government has provided you with the land, they've provided you with the tractor, they've provided you with the high yielding varieties. So what do you need money for? The deployment you make of yourself to the farm is now what you create of yourself. You don't need money to do it. Now, and the government, because of this huge amount of money that is now earmarked for agriculture, the government can access that money to pay for tractorization, to pay for land acquisition, for land clearing, for land preparation, for fertilizer, for high yielding varieties, and all of those things. So it is not going to, it doesn't require giving money, cash transfer to these participating farmers. Now, when the farmer has cultivated and tended his farm and the thing has yielded and he has harvested, the government guarantees them offtake.
Market.
Now, you now bring in aggregators. Aggregator is the person who combines the output from the person, from this farmers 10 hectares, other farmers 10 hectares, the other farmers 10 hectares in a monocrop, in a farm settlement, in a farm estate. So it is one produce they are bringing out, which is cassava in this case. And because the aggregator now aggregates all the output from that particular farm, it comes to a substantial quantity that enables him to now establish a processing facility. That is the value chain. And then having processed a large quantity of this produce, it brings itself again to the next level, next stage, which is the packaging, the storage, preservation, and then marketing or export. And because of the substantial output, it lends itself to anything you want to think about. If it is cassava for human consumption, you prepare gari, you prepare fufu, you prepare cassava flour and all of that. If it is for animal consumption, you do the pellets, the chips, cassava chips, cassava pellets. You move them up north, down south, anyhow you want to move them. The same way we buy rice, the same way we buy maize for poultry feed. Then somebody can be saying, okay, bring me this high yielding, this high energy cassava for me to feed my animals up north. You trailerize them, move them up north. And I think from what we already have in the budget now, we can achieve all these things. I think we have our work cut out for us in the legislature. We have our work cut out for us because the system, the country also depends on us to play our own part so that the intendments of government can be achieved.
You know that in this conversation, most of the examples have been from our own experience in Enugu State.
Yes.
But in 1988, if I remember, I did say in an article I wrote that to unlock the wealth of Nigeria is to unlock the land in the north. Mm-hmm. Africa's challenge over food insecurity when the former Ghanaian president came to Abuja, he said, Nigerian intellectuals, Nigerian thinkers should help Africa. Let me borrow his words. Northern Nigeria should help Africa. Why am I saying this? Access to land. Dangote is a successful businessman today. You know why? He has put in so much capital into everything he's doing that he is a continental player. If we replicate, if we have 1, 2, 3 Dangotes in Nigeria's agriculture sector, for them to play, they must have access to land. What would you be telling our northern land governments in respect of this money that the president has allocated, and how they can benefit, and the country benefits and Africa benefits?
Let me say this quickly. Yes, the vast lands exist in the north, but enough land exists everywhere in Nigeria. The vast lands exist in the north to feed the world, but enough land exists everywhere in Nigeria to feed
our
us
population
and feed Africa. I'm telling you. Now, talking about the big players, let me give another example. Maybe this time not from my state, if you may. Now, Dangote produces sugar, both industrial sugar and table sugar. Sugar is produced from sugarcane. So he is the industrial producer, manufacturer, processor of sugarcane into sugar. Sugar cubes and then sugar powder, granulated sugar for industrial use. You imagine that at the scale he produces sugar, it will require vast acreage of land, hectares of land
to feed his factories.
No, to produce the amount of sugar cane to feed the factories. What Dangote has done is to invest in outgrowers. Dangote has invested massively, and I can tell you, I am aware of it, in outgrowers of sugar cane. What he does, and you know, multiplication of sugar cane is by the buds. That is the natural multiplication.
Yes.
But then there's biotechnology, whereby you can multiply sugar canes through nurseries, through the biotech lab. I have been there. So Dangote invested in a biotech lab at University of Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. I have been there. And I have seen a scraping of sugarcane, not a nodule, not a node of sugarcane, but a scraping of sugarcane being processed in the lab to go to the other end and give you this, the sugarcane, the ones you go to sow, the nursery you go to sow. I have seen it. This is not inorganic.
No, it's not.
No, it's still highly organic. But instead of waiting for you to multiply your sugar cane through the nodes, you now create seedlings that are produced in the lab from scrapings of sugar cane. Scrapings. You see, I'm not a biotechnology, but you see, you watch it with your eyes, you go from here and the other side, you have millions upon millions, in fact billions of sugarcane
nurseries,
seedlings being produced there. So now the registered, accredited outgrowers are licensed, are given their ticket to come to Ahmadu Bello University and pick up 50,000, 1 million, 200,000, depending on the amount of land you have. So the big players can invest in outgrowers. Just like I was saying, the aggregators. The big player is what the person you can call an aggregator. So if it is cassava for human consumption in gari and fufu, for starch production, for pharmaceuticals, for animal feed, and so on and so forth, they have their business cut out for them. They can invest in outgrowers who have 20 hectares, 200 hectares, 1,000 hectares here, 1,000 hectares there. You support them with the seedlings, with the high yielding varieties. You support them with training. You tell them what to do, then you guarantee their offtake. In fact, of everybody who cultivates for Dangote, of course your output is guaranteed for offtake. So there is no issue there at all. Whether you're doing sugarcane, you're doing rice, there are people who have established rice mills, and they are now investing in outgrowers to go and cultivate the rice
and
bring in the
some
paddy.
of this money should be going into.
So the thing is well laid out. It's well laid out. If you ask the right people, and look, everybody should become a right person, because we are threatened with food insecurity, threatened with hunger and food that is beyond the reach of the ordinary Nigerian. Before, we used to think that good tomato, edible tomato, you must come from Jos. But go to Enugu State now.
There's now tomato Jos in Enugu.
Yes. It's just the seedling, because the weather is there. It doesn't have to be tomato Jos coming from Jos. It can be tomato Jos. No, tomato Jos produced from my backyard. From my backyard. So I am saying, for the farmer, he needs to be another thing very, very important, because I have a project that I'm doing in Kano, which is called Guaranteed Offtake and Price Stabilization Program for Tomato Farmers in Kano State. So it's not, my example is not only Enugu State. Now, what am I saying? Farmers have to have a guaranteed, as much as they need guaranteed offtake, they also need guaranteed price.
Yeah, that's true.
And I had to hold a meeting with the tomato farmers in Kano State. I say, what is the price that when we pay you per basket of tomato, you will be encouraged to go back to the farm and just continue producing, knowing that everything you produce will be taken off from you.
And a good price.
And then we agreed at 1,800. Can you imagine that? 1,000, that's at that time. Now it could be something more now. But what is that price that can encourage a tomato farmer to continue producing without thinking about offtake? What is that price? We can find that price. And then government guarantees the offtake and the stable price. Price stabilization. Price stabilization.
Okay, then my producer is saying my time is not remaining much, but there are two critical issues.
Good.
Each time we in the media, we focus on post-harvest losses. And the provision now made by the president in these allocations, especially the one for the Bank of Industries, 500 billion, he says he expects Bank of Industries now to invest in processing.
Forward integration.
But I have a problem, I have a challenge. Does Nigeria have the technological base, or do we still need to be importing machines and get Spaniards to come here and fix them for us? That's a challenge.
If you don't have time, then let me just go quickly. There's no reinventing the wheel.
No.
There's no reinventing the wheel. There are rice processors, rice mills that you can just bring in completely CKD. There are tomato processors that you can. In fact, recently there are two young men. I asked them to do me a study and then get me the best tomato processing machine from around the world, and at how much will it come
into Nigeria?
Yes. Now, so there's no reinventing the wheel, because we can lay our hands on what the machines that already exist and begin to use them. While we are using them, there is Firo.
Very good.
There are other science Naseni. There are other science and engineering infrastructure institutions in Nigeria that can now understudy these machines with a view to maintaining the ones that they bring into Nigeria and then fabricating the fresh ones. Firo is there, Proda is there, Nasenia is there, and so on and so. What is our Ministry of Science and Technology doing? That is exactly what they are cut out to do. So for now, these machines exist around the world. Go and lay your hands on them, bring them in and process your tomato. For instance, when you now acquire all the, you know what pushed me into doing this tomato project is because I see mountains of tomato in Kano spoiling,
wasting.
You just, somebody brings a basket of tomato to the market and he doesn't sell it today. He knows that bringing it tomorrow is not viable. There's no need, because other fresher ones will come. So he just goes to that mountain, boom, he pours it in away there. And then I say, can somebody just guarantee the offtake of all this output and then move them to a processing facility? And then I had to discuss with an institute there. Federal College of Agricultural Produce Technology. Federal College of Agricultural Produce Technology. I said, you are produce technology. What are you technologizing here when this amount of tomato is spoiled within your domain? And so we are working on it to make sure that the output of tomato is secured, is processed, the shelf life is increased, and then it can be consumed around Nigeria and moved to other parts of the world.
Can you look at the employment potentials of this federal government policy? Because one of our challenges is unemployment.
You think, like I said, along the value chain, from beginning to the end, multiple thousands, millions of jobs are created. If you just take one item, take rice, you walk it through the value chain. For instance, if this is our animal husbandry, are you aware that it is not only those that come in contact with the animal that can engage in cattle rearing? You can be in southern Nigeria producing feeds only,
and that's true.
Grass feeds.
Feed only. That's true.
And then you know how to tend that feed now. You are a specialist in feed feed production. That you fortify your own feed with vitamins. You fortify your own feed with carbohydrate, with high energy, high protein.
So the animal there grows faster.
Yes, so that they know that there's one company called Company A in so and so state and so town. And so the man in Kano, in Zamfara, in KB is calling you on phone. I need 100 metric tons of your feed. Cassava, that is the carbohydrate type, and then the protein type. You have the legumes, you have the carbohydrate feeds also, the grass. That you know how to now tend. So the person is specializing, and because you take one segment in this value chain, you are specializing on it. And then another person is doing artificial insemination. Yeah. He has a nitrogen lab. He stores the semen of the high yielding bulls. He goes to Netherlands, to Switzerland, to Australia to get the best species, to Brazil, to England to get the best species, to Saudi Arabia to get the best species of these animals. He collects the semen and he's coming around your farm to inject.
And getting new varieties.
Yeah, so he simply invests in a nitrogen lab. He invests in a nitrogen lab, he stores the semen and picks a little specimen and goes to inject, and the animals are getting pregnant and they are producing in multiple. Because if you want to get into commercial agriculture, commercial production, whether animals or crop, you cannot go by the natural. That has to, just like I talked about
the slow process.
Yeah, just like I talked about the biotechnology lab, you also talk about the artificial insemination for animals, and so on and so forth. Of course, now we don't get what they call them, birds, poultry birds. You know, reproducing by natural. They just pick their feed, and in that feed is the thing that activates their production.
Well. This conversation is going to run, as I said, all throughout this week into next week, because we are going to bring in other stakeholders in this business. I think Honorable Denis Agbo says I'm right. The president got it right. Can other stakeholders in the process kindly please try and get it right? Because this might be a turning point in Nigeria's generally bigger economy, but specifically our capacity to feed ourselves and have less hungry people on our streets. In the past 50 minutes, I've been conversing with Honorable Denis Agbo, a member of Nigeria's House of Representatives, on the president's policy of giving substantial part of money to the agriculture sector. What is going to be its effect? How does it handle unemployment? How does it handle food security? And how do we prioritize the money that has been voted? Can I thank him on my behalf, Denis? Thank you very much for coming to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigerians, for listening.
And that's it for this morning, signature morning. My name never changes, except that I'm getting old. I can hear my voice now, it's cracked. Not to worry. Somebody says I should drink warm water. Tomorrow morning I do so to be more beautiful. For this morning, have a great day and good morning.